I hope all of you have settled down properly. With that, good afternoon, esteemed faculty members and students. First of all, welcome to this distinguished panel discussion organized by Politica, a venture of Center for New Economic Studies. Politica in this semester, as part of the center, is organizing a set of 3 panel guest discussions with a common theme of Indian general elections and topics ranging from gender equality, voting pattern analysis, and citizenship amendment bill, which I hope all of you will diligently once again participate in. To be honest, Center for New Economic Studies and its members theorize this event to bridge the gap between sharing of ideas between academicians, researchers, analysts, and the students of this university. And I hope the topic for today's discussion will act as that bridge, and the time, I guess, is right to discuss that. But beyond the academics of analyzing elections, what makes our general public so attached to it will be the topic of this entire discussion. Why do we feel the purple mark on our finger is a greater sign of empowerment, and why for children, even voting for the first time is the most alluring responsibility? We will discuss some of these questions and many more as we go forward with our illustrious guest panel, all specializing in their particulars in some way or the other. First, we have Professor Mohsin Raza Khan, acting as a faculty member in JSIA, who is also an avid social scientist working on various facets which overlook the Indian electoral politics. Then we have Professor Dr. Akirat, acting as faculty member in JSLH and who is also a political psychologist. Then we have, as discussant, Professor Dr. Anish Bannaik, who is a historian and acting as an assistant professor in JGLS. A mixture of in-house faculty from diverse background will give an assurance of flowing dynamics of knowledge. And since most of us, or all of us, have attended 1 or 2 of their classes, we can vouch for their integrity and the knowledge in this entire sphere.
I was given 3 questions to address, and I'm going to try and address all the 3 questions. I want to point out some things that when you look at Indian elections, they are very counterfactual. I mean, you know the conventional story. The conventional story is that the 2004 elections were about disappointment with India shining, with Vajpayee's BJP's India shining, and so they were voted out. But actually, if you look at the voting percentage in 2004 and 98, BJP's voting percentage is virtually the same. There's a 0.5% difference. If they can come to power with the same voting percentage in 99, then why can't they win again in 2004? The question you have to ask yourself. If you look again at the election of 2009, it is considered to be a Manrega effect, that the Congress came back with more seats. But actually, if you see, Manishankar, I think, did an analysis, and he showed that actually more than half of the Congress MPs lost their seats. So the new Congress MPs that you saw were a particularly fresh batch. It wasn't like the same MPs were re-elected. If you look at the 2004 and 2009. 2004, the Congress comes for the first time, then 2009 it comes back. But most of the MPs have switched. So it's not like you were voting back the same MPs for their performance. So a puzzle remains. 2014 is supposed to be a Modi wave election, a great hope election. But if you see the BJP's vote percentage, it's only 31%. With 31%, with the lowest percentage ever, they get a majority. So, it is very difficult to be able to predict which way, because Indian elections have now become very competitive. Small differences in percentage of votes, can make a big difference in seats, because we have a first past the post system. We don't have a complete majority system. So what will happen in 2019? Very difficult to say. Until a month ago, it looked like BJP was on the back foot, for various reasons, whether it was agricultural growth, whether it was, the job situation, a variety of factors. But now, after this airstrikes, I don't think it will have a huge effect, because national security has never been a big concern in India, but it will have some effect, And in such closely fought elections, in such competitive elections, a few percent here or there can mean BJP getting 30 seats maybe, 30 seats is a big deal. If you were supposed to be getting 180, you get 210. If you were supposed to be getting 210, you get 240. And that makes a big difference, because at 240, you can get allies to cover the remaining 32 seats. But at 210, it becomes more difficult. And at 180, it becomes almost impossible. to get enough allies, because the BJP doesn't have that many natural allies. So will this have an effect? I think it will have some effect. Will it have a big effect? I don't think it will have a big effect. But even a small effect will be necessary. But Clausewitz, one has to always go back to Clausewitz. Clausewitz says that war is not just you acting on some inanimate object. War is you acting against an animate object. So the opposition is also working. What is the opposition doing? The opposition is now making alliances where they had thought they will fight alone. You can see this again. Congress has gone back, and SP and Congress are talking again. Even Mayawati seems more amenable. Even AAP and Congress are talking, even though they're saying something else publicly. They're talking, So they all realize that the game has now changed. That now the BJP is on the front foot, So we'll see that. But coming back to the three questions that I was initially given, I'll just quickly try to address some of them. They said, what factors usually shape voting preferences in Indian general elections? Post 2009 is what I was asked. But 2009 is not really the watershed. The watershed is the year 2000, actually. I'll explain why. Before this, you find that anti-incumbency hits you irrespective of economic performance. Economic performance and anti-incumbency don't correlate. But after 2000, you see that there is some correlation. Not a lot, but you see state governments which have performed well coming back in Madhya Pradesh repeatedly, in Chhattisgarh, in Bihar, in various other places, Gujarat also to some extent. So you start seeing in Andhra Pradesh, you see YSR coming back. So you see some effect. Not a lot, because still what rules is your identity, your caste, your religious identity still rules the roost. But you start seeing a perceptible effect of performance. This is what I mean. This is what people who are observing in elections state. So what else? You see regionalism playing a greater and greater role. Now you will say to me that, hey, the BJP is ruling right now in the center, so what regionalism? It's a national party. Well, we don't really, we are not looking clearly. That's why we think BJP as a national party. What do I mean by that? If you look at the states in which BJP is strong, it has a very strong chief minister. It has a guy who is a regional leader. When you think of Madhya Pradesh, you don't think of it as a region. It's a region, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan is the champion of that region. Modi was the champion of Gujarat. Chhattisgarh had its own champion. So every region, and where the BJP was weak was where they didn't have a regional champion. In UP, they did not have a regional champion. They did not have a regional leader. It is Mayawati and Mulayam, the regional leaders, who were strong. If you see the South, of course, I don't have to repeat myself, whether it is Tamil Nadu or whether it's... And where is the Congress strong? The Congress is strongest where it has regional leaders. Where is that? Look at Rajasthan. Gehlot is the regional leader of Rajasthan. He is the man. I've been to Western Rajasthan, and people literally worship him. They love him. They think of him as their man. And you go to Karnataka, or you go to Maharashtra. Sharad Pawar is the regional leader of Maharashtra. Everybody coalesces around him when he was in the Congress, and even when he's been outside the Congress in the NCP. So wherever you have strong regional leaders, because India has now become too big and diverse and too federal. So wherever you will see a strong... Let's look at Punjab. Could they have won without captain? They could not have won without captain. Impossible. And this is why Congress is weak in Gujarat. Why? Because they don't have a Gujarati face. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi cannot go to Gujarat and get you votes when they are competing against a regional strongman like Modi, who also has Hindutva to back him. I'll speak more on this, on Hindutva and Modi. But what you have to understand is India is becoming increasingly regional in its politics. And don't be fooled. Even the national parties are strong only where they have strong regional leaders. If you go to Bengal, it's Mamata. When you go to Odisha, it's Naveen Patnaik. You can't beat them. Look at Naveen Patnaik's performance. I mean, it's an astounding performance. People talk about Modi and all that. It's an astounding performance. For a man who had never lived in his own state, who barely speaks Odia, he comes, he delivers economic growth. And you might not think of it as much, But the social redistribution, he has the best policy right now for agricultural support actually. It's much better than the Telangana policy. It is the best policy of all. Why? Because it covers marginal farmers, it covers landless laborers, it covers all of these guys, and that's a special policy. He's captured 30% of the agricultural workers, which nobody else has captured. Even I think Telangana, the reach is only up to 70% or 65%. Also, Telangana has that problem that you give on per acre. So it doesn't matter if you have 15 acres, you will get for all the 15 acres. It's not like that. There's a cap and what is that. So you have to see that why do these regional leaders, why are they winning? It is because people feel that they better understand them and their problems. They have received benefits from them in the past, so they trust them, repeatedly. And Delhi is too far, That is why you see that turnout in Indian state elections is always much higher, significantly higher than national elections. Even in a place like UP, which does not have regionalism, because UP does not think of itself as a region, So, but in UP also, the national elections will have 55% turnout, This time when Modi was there, I think it was 60% because of the Modi wave. But in state elections, it will always be above 60%, close to 70 at times, in UP. And of course, the highest percentages in the local elections, panchayat elections always have the highest voter turnout. But so that's a factor. I'm just trying to go over because it was a good set of questions that I was sent. So I'm just trying to go through them. Sorry. I was asked to speak on anti-incumbency. We have covered anti-incumbency is the general rule, but it has weakened, as I said, since 2000. What is the effect of national security and what is the wave effect? Well, this election didn't look like it was going to be a wave election, unlike say 2014, where there was a clear wave in favor of BJP. I don't think there'll still be a wave, but yeah, this might be the first election where national security plays a significant effect. The reason being because the national security issue has been so close, so proximate to the elections, within 2 months of the electoral cycle. Otherwise, usually these events used to take place far in the distance. What has been the role of regional and caste-based political groups during the last 2 elections? Well, caste-based parties have been, strongest in the Hindi belt, in the cow belt. Okay, and there's a reason for that. They are not so strong in Madhya Pradesh. They are not so strong in Rajasthan, but they are very strong in UP and Bihar. And the reason is because Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh don't offer a core caste group in the way that UP and Bihar offers. What do I mean by that? UP has one of the highest percentages of Dalits in the country. Almost 20% Dalits. UP is unique because it also has the highest percentage of Brahmins. They form a significant voting bloc, which they don't in other states. UP is again special because UP has a significant bloc of a single OBC caste. You hear of OBC, but there are dozens and dozens of OBC castes. But UP and Bihar offer this special thing that OBCs, that is Yadavs alone, are 15%. That's a huge percentage. So others can agglomerate around them. Madhya Pradesh doesn't offer that. There is no single caste OBC group in Madhya Pradesh which is close to 15%. So who do you agglomerate around? So you don't see that rise of Bahujan politics in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Again, Dalit percentages are also smaller. But Dalits work best where they can ally with others. And in Rajasthan, it's not easy for them to ally with others. Though in Rajasthan, their percentage is significant if you include the Meghwals and all that. But so UP offers that opportunity. It offers a significant OBC group. It offers a significant upper caste Brahmin vote. It offers a significant Muslim vote also, 20%, close to 20%, 19%. And so if you look at Bihar, again, Bihar offers a significant Dalit vote, past ones, etc. Combined. It offers a significant OBC vote again. and it offers actually a very significant upper caste Brahmin Bhumihar vote bank, where they are actually landowners, unlike UP, where they are not, Brahmins are not big landowners in UP, so they don't have significant, they have power through the administration and through, you know, the professions, law, etc. But they don't have actual control over land the way they have in Bihar and parts of eastern UP. So Haryana also, you can say, has caste-based groups, 25%, because of, again, the dominance of one single OBC group, that is the Jats at 25%. It offers both a base for INLD and for Congress. And so all the others have started combining against the Jats. So the victory of the BJP is actually a victory of all other castes against the Jats, actually, essentially seen. The BJP is not a Jat party in Haryana. And if you look at Punjab, it's difficult to say what caste group aligns with what in Punjab, actually. Okay, so I'll finish off. I have 5 minutes left. The last question that I was asked was, what are the voting preferences for candidates during general elections? Is the average Indian voter still ideologically motivated and influenced? Well, the evidence is that he is, actually, despite what we might think that voters are not. One already knew this because of the stickiness of voters with the BJP. BJP, even when it loses, usually has over 20% of the vote catch. And that's a significant percentage. That percentage never leaves them. They are their core voters, whether you go in UP or you go in wherever you want to go, Rajasthan, Gujarat, wherever you want to go in North India. The Congress also has some voters, but it has a smaller core base. But now we have statistical evidence. You know, Pradeep Chippar recently wrote this book. He used the Lokniti data set over the last few elections. And he showed that actually, if you do a quadrant in which you put, I think on the x-axis he puts how much interference you would like to see the government do on social policy. By social policy, it means, you know, reservations and other things, versus how much interference you want to see the government do in economic policy support. And you look at whether the voter was a BJP voter. You look at the vote. Yeah, you look at whether the voter was BJP or Congress, and you look at whether the voter is upper caste or lower caste. And you get a clear graph of ideological preference. The BJP voters want less reservations, and they want, and especially if they're upper caste. But even if they are Congress, they are less against reservations than the BJP upper caste voter, even the Congress upper caste voter, and wants government interference in economic issues. They do want, both sets want. If it's lower caste, non-BJP voter, he wants more interference in social policy. If he's a lower caste BJP voter, then he wants lesser interference in social policy, but still more than what the upper caste BJP voter wants. So it shows a clear, depending on your caste and depending on your party preference, it shows a clear preference on economic and social policy, which this take as evidence of ideological leaning. So it does show it. So we already knew this, but now we have some kind of statistics to back it up. So thank you.
Raki, you have the floor.
Discipline in that sense. Psychology, traditionally, academic psychology has had a very dim view of human behavior in groups. We have terms like groupthink, we have terms like mob behavior, and it kind of characterizes the group and people who act within groups as mindless, as automatons, and generally of people belonging on the margins, not the nice people. So some of us nice academics decided that this is not really, I think psychology then goes into a place where we do not engage with what actually group behavior might be outside the realms of academic psychology. And one of the things we started looking at is how do people behave in groups? Why do they engage in groups? And even if it is about violent behavior, why do you think that that violent behavior is mindless? Or might people be actually convinced to do that kind of an action? The most common one cited is the genocide, the Holocaust during the Nazi regimes. And one of the things that we keep hearing about is about the banality of people, Hannah Arendt's expression. But I think Hannah Arendt is misinterpreted in psychology when we don't look at the range of literature that was available and the range of things she wrote about the way in which the trials were conducted, the way in which ordinary men took up arms against the Jewish population. What this brought Claudia Kuhn's to question is, do we then need to look at how an identity is built up? How is the in-group developed? These are things we normally take for granted. When Modi ji speaks of India, we kind of think we know what he means by that. And we do know what he means by that. But how do we come to know of that? Was that always a given? Was a Hindu-Muslim antagonism always a given? Was it ancient hatred? Or has there been a sustained way of developing this kind of hatred? Has there been a sustained way of mobilizing this kind of hatred towards particular ends? One of the things we started looking at is leadership speeches and political rhetoric. And I've picked up one speech from 2006. That's the in-depth review. I'll take you quickly through it. But there is a pattern that follows in the speeches. And one of the things that I keep remarkable is the way that identities are constructed in the speeches are that identities are actually constructed. We think that they are given. We know what it means to be Hindu. We know what it means to be Indian. If we did know that, political leaders would not put so much energy, put so much creativity in the way that even they mobilize people towards it. So when we look at the speeches, even if the agenda is on development, even if the agenda is on Pulwama attack, it is also about telling us who we are as a country, who we need to be as a country, and most importantly, who can be a part of this country, right? So I hope that sets the background up for taking us through the speech. So this was on 11 July 2006, a series of bombings took place. Modi ji was the first one on the scene. And at that point of time, people didn't think that he was actually aiming for a leadership claim at the national level. But the speech was fairly interesting. He spoke, and of course, the way it is also framed is that it is a challenge to terrorism. So terrorism was, I take a slight diversion to Mohsin's point that terrorism was a point even in back in 2014 and previously also. National security on ground, but in the way it translates on ground, it's almost like the Prime Minister today was the Sutradhar who translated what it meant. What does that mean? What is the meaning of that attack for us? How does it translate down to lived experiences of everyday life for people around us? They clearly think that this is an important speech. It's available on his website. It was also circulated in this place. I had, most of my PhD thesis was based around these areas, and I spent about 30 days in the Hindu Dharma Sabha. Not a pleasant experience, but very illuminating experience. The kind of pamphlets, the kind of leaflets, it's almost like people enjoy. It's a mela, right? The Kumbh is a mela. This Dharma Sabha was just 3 days after the Kumbh. So that crowd also had access to this brilliant parliament. So I'll give you a quick overview of the analysis of the speech. We'll look at how the in-group is being defined. Okay, we're not going to take it for granted. We'll look at how he is positioning India. we look at how the out-group is also defined. We take it for granted that the Muslims are the out-groups. There are many other out-groups at the moment. If you have any kind of secular leanings, you are an out-group. You are not part of the in-group. How do we come to that position, right? Why are these identities mobilized in this way? How are they mobilized? And we'll see if this has anything to do with the psychological inclination of then investing in such a leader. Yeah? So let's see if this works. Okay, this should be fairly straightforward. It's Bharat Mata Ki Jai, it's Vande Mataram. It's a nationalist sign. And you would think that this should involve whole of India without the identities of regions and religion. However, when he starts his speech, and this a Modi rally, this holds true even today. If you look at the rallies he's still doing in Ahmedabad and Har, and I just had a look at all of those. It is an identity building exercise. There are particular ways in which the leader will come forward. There are ritualized expressions of how he has to start this speech. And these are almost, he's become of the group. He's become almost symbolic of what it means to be a good Indian, right? Now, he says, today on the soil of Mumbai, I have come with a very heavy heart. Of course, he speaks in Hindi, I just translated it. I cannot imagine why that a country like India and the innocent citizens of India are thrown into the throes of death. What is the fault of those youth? What is the fault of those mothers and sisters? Someone's brother is snatched away, someone's beloved son is snatched away. A sister's sindoor is wiped away. Now this is innocuous. This is extremely insidious. But what image does it bring to us? This is how psychologists would argue that a cognitive bias comes into play. What kind of images are invoked when you now think of an in-group? Remember, I'm picking up very small pieces. This is an entire, we're looking at 15 years of this and we're looking at it on every level, right? So when I give these, do not think of it as one data cherry picked out. There is an entire amount of, I'm only giving you exemplars of what can happen, right? There were so many, and then he talks about the attacks. There were so many attacks on the Amarnath Yatris, but no one retaliated with even a stone in this country. There were attacks on Raghunath temple, but nobody's house was burnt down in this country. In Ayodhya, attacks were carried out on Lord Ram's temple, and also in Varanasi, but not a stone was thrown. Even in Gujarat, terrorists had entered Akshardham, had declared a Bandh, but after Akshardham in Gujarat, not even a stone was thrown. What stands out here as a pattern? It's all temples. It's all Hindu temples, as if the attacks didn't happen anywhere else. It doesn't have to, in the unsaid, we have to start thinking about how this now builds into who is the victim here? Who can be seen as the real victim? Is a Muslim person, is an attack on a madrasa going to be seen as a real attack? Can they be seen as real victims? We don't know. And in the way the narrative is developing, you are allowed to come to your own conclusion. The brilliant part of Modi's narrative is that you are allowed to come to your own conclusion. He doesn't hammer it in. He allows you, he gives you hooks. He takes you on a pleasant walk. So some of us find it unpleasant, but generally, he takes you on a walk. Yeah? While the terms used look and sound generic, signifiers, and these are sociological terms, this is what it signifies. Sindoor and temple turns the Indian in-group into a specific Hindu in-group. Okay? Now, the reason I keep saying this is because after this, or after 12 years of doing this, a generic Bharat Mata Ki Jai then starts symbolizing something else. We'll have to think about what it symbolizes, right? He doesn't then have to say, he doesn't have to use a particularly Hindu term to signify it anymore. Because we've come to a stage where Hindu and India can be used interchangeably. He uses it in that way, the audience understands it in that way, right? He contrasts this characterization with he contrasts this with the characterization of an outgroup. In a map of the world, the most insecure country is Hindustan. On all sides, there are countries harboring jihadi terrorists. Friends, jihadi terrorism has spread till Indonesia and Malaysia. In spite of it being an Islamic country, the leaders of that country are also worried about jihadi terrorism. He's setting up a narrative here. It's almost like saying that, well, I'm not going to blame the Congress directly, but even people of Muslim countries are worried about this. Then why did the Congress do anything about it? That question comes a bit later, but this is how the narrative is built up. You build up the tempo. We go from international terrorism to domestic ones. He raises the case of a young woman called Ishrat Jahan, who was suspected to be a terrorist and was shot dead. He says, just a while ago, a TV reporter was saying that someone saw a girl planting the bomb. I don't know what the truth is. Girls have been used before. So nobody is kept away from that narrative. There is a point, there is almost the gun is pointed, but he doesn't pull the trigger. He allows you to take it forward in terms of the narrative. From specifics to generalities, he says this is not against any religion. Friends, terrorists have no religion. I believe in this firmly, that terrorists have no religion. Terrorists are enemies of humankind. And for him, our responses should be very heartening. You would think that this should be fairly straightforward. He's not pointing towards any particular group, towards any particular religion. What happens though, is from the audience, there are shouts. Jumme ko bomb dalo. So the audience knows that even when he speaks of a difference, he speaks of terrorism as a general attack, and terrorism has no religion. If you just look at the text, he says very clearly that terrorism has no religion. Yet, we are now at a stage where people understand precisely what religion terrorism has. Jumme ko bomb dalo points to a very specific religion. Okay? Setting up the intergroup relationship. Who is to be killed? The terrorist decides. Where is the person to be killed? The terrorist decides. When is the person to be killed? The terrorist decides. How is the person to be killed? The terrorist decides. He says this in his speech. He's giving the control. He says that your destiny, your fate, your lives are in the hands of the terrorist, who now in your imagination, in the image that has been invoked, belongs to a particular religion. Now how does this link to leadership claims? Why is this important? Why is building up the narrative in this way important? Well, for one, if you do not have an enemy of that sort, your 56-inch will not come to any use. Right? You need to have a context for that to make sense. And this is way back in 2006. He talks about the time he went to Assam. And he says, in Assam, I had gone to an election rally. Wherever I got down, the people of the villages requested only one thing of me. The election rally is one thing, but please speak about the Bangladeshis. The entire village used to come and tell me this. Speak about the Bangladeshis. We are really tormented by the Bangladeshis. When he's speaking in Mumbai, there's no reason to bring that into the narrative here, unless you want to develop a Muslim monolith outgroup. Right? You have to show that these are dots that are connected. So he says, I said in that public gathering, look brother, Assam's neighbor is Bangladesh and Gujarat's neighbor is Pakistan. My situation is the same as yours. He was the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that point, okay? They are your next door neighbors, and these are my next door neighbors. And I said, but there is a slight difference. You are tormented because of them, and they are tormented because of me. And this narrative still continues. This is the same thing you're going to hear with the Pulwama attack, the way the narrative builds up there, the way the meaning is ascribed to that incident. Okay? Once you've done that, you've created this kind of, these are the people who belong to the out group, these are the people who belong to the in group. How do you then position yourself? And how do you position your rival? Or why is this important? He talks about this, he says the people who have completed their youth, they can't be bothered about your youth, my friends. He's talking about Manmohan Singh at that point of time. They are not bothered about your tomorrow, they are not concerned about your future. How does he respond? He says, and that is why I would like to tell the country's youth, friends, I have promised, till there is life within me, I will search these merchants of death one by one and even them out. Does this sound a bit familiar now? It should sound familiar. This is almost the same rhetoric we're going to hear with the Pulwama attack that's come up. Yeah? Quickly, this is not that important, but well, he talks about the security arrangements at the airport. He gives various examples. He's a much better speaker than I am, so we'll look at one of his clips. But he talks about this. He says, sometimes I'm shocked that these big leaders of ours go to the airport and if someone dares to check them, then their eyes turn red. How dare they check us? Do you not recognize us? Morning and evening, we're the ones on the television. Friends, I'm surprised. And he talks of himself as, I am not a Pradhan Mantri, I am a Pradhan Sevak. He is already projected what he is going to be. I will not be the Pradhan Mantri, I will be the Pradhan Sevak. Okay? I'll take you through one quick. So this was in Ahmedabad.
लेकिन कुछ लोग हैं जिनको सेना की बात भी पसंद नहीं थी। अरे मोदी की बात मत मानो भाई, मैंने कहता हूं मेरी बात मानो, कम से कम सेना पर तो विश्वास मत करो।
Imagine what he's done here. You do not believe me, don't believe me. Do not question the armed forces. The armed forces are traditionally seen to be apolitical. Right? In the imagination of the citizens as well, they're supposed to be apolitical. But now with this narrative, he's attacking the Congress saying you are politicizing this as well. Something that should be apolitical is seen to be pure. It's seen to be neutral. It's seen to be above the politics of identities. Right? But in this way, this is, I don't know if the political scientists can tell me this. I think in a dictatorship rule, this is what happens when you become of the group so much that any attack on the group is seen as an attack on the leader himself. Okay? I am just bringing forth the psychological processes in which this happens. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in multitudinous ways. And it happens very richly. Okay, it doesn't happen because there was a cognitive bias went wrong here. These are political processes. People are engaged in this. I mean, if you look at the, I don't think I can show the audience here, but the way he takes the audience through it is also something remarkable. He almost engages with the audience. Aap bataiye, main nahi bol raha hu, aap bataiye. And he waits for the audience to respond. You will not find Congress leaders doing this. You will not find anybody, you will find people who are well versed in the ways of identity building doing this. Because almost in a weird way, it means that they are listening to their audience. Sometimes it comes down to processes of just this. Are they listening or are they not listening? And he is tremendous. The Prime Minister is tremendous at listening to the audience's pulse.
होता और कुछ तो उल्टा हो गया होता, तो ये लोग क्या करते? क्या करते मुझे बताइए? किसका इस्तीफा मांगते? किसका इस्तीफा मांगते? क्यों भाई? मतलब राजनीति आप कर रहे हो, आप सफल हो गए।
राजनीति आप कर रहे हो. Remember, he is not doing politics. And this is a running thread across his speeches from 2000 or 2002. मैं राजनीति नहीं करता हूँ, मैं राजनीति से ऊपर हूँ. The Congress is doing the politics. And yet, very strangely, our understanding in the social media world is that, you know, when the attack comes, you're saying that Modi is politicizing it. Right? So the kind of conversations that are happening, it's almost there is a kind of not only a disbalance, it's almost as if we are bereft of looking at what is going on. And this is a glimpse. I mean, I don't have to take you through this. I will say something though. This was in Ahmedabad. He goes to Dhar in Madhya Pradesh. And he talks about increasingly how he positions the Congress is that if you vote for the Congress, you are voting for Pakistan. The Congress does things in the interest of Pakistan. He increasingly takes you, if you were to visualize it in terms of a graph, if there's an in-group and an out-group, and both leaders start from the in-group position, the arguments, the cultural rhetoric, the political rhetoric, the ways in which these arguments are positioned is where I am of the group, I am of India, I am of this group, and the Congress is increasingly being shown to be representative of the out-group. And in this case, the out-group is Pakistan. Okay? A quick take-home, the analytic point, I think, and this is why I think it becomes important that we look at the speeches. Too often we are told as students, even as political scientists, we are told that the contents don't matter. If you repeat something thrice, then it becomes the truth. We have to challenge that. In academics also we have to challenge that. You have to look at the contents. What is he saying? What is the message? Right? Do not take categories, do not presuppose the nature of these categories. Do not presuppose what it means to be Indian or what it means to be Hindu, because the political leaders aren't. They're investing a lot of time and a lot of creativity in building up what it means to be an Indian, what it means to be Hindu. So for us to be challenging that, we need to be looking at those processes also. Hatred against Pakistan, hatred against Indian Muslims, hatred against minorities is not a given. It's not just because it was in our culture or in our history. This is true across countries, across the world. Just because two groups are in existence does not mean that they're going to wipe each other out. It means hatred has to be mobilized. Which means if we buy into that notion that hatred has to be mobilized, there is some scope that peace can also be mobilized. If we believe that hatred is unconscious, then we don't have any scope to counter it, right? And the last part is, it's not just the attack that is important, it's the interpretation of it that also then becomes important. Because that's how you set up your players. That's how you then say that, look, I am defending you, I am of you, and they are not. Okay, thank you.